Good morning.
I was adamantly opposed to the drilling. I don't feel good about what it could do even long term, and maybe it'll be safe short term, but I really have concerns about what it could do with water, soil, air, and I'd rather not have it, but there was like a fervor in our area. Everybody was so happy to get the payment, the money for the leases. And that they were going to drill anyway. They're going to take the oil from under us, and you know, if our property was damaged in any way, that we'd kind of be stuck. We wouldn't have any recourse for, you know, finding a new farm or the resources to do that. So it was a hard thing for my wife and I to really just struggle over and pray through, and so we did end up leasing with the company.
Many are quite surprised to find out that organic farmers are allowed to sign a lease with the gas company.
They are, because just because a farmer becomes organic, they don't give up any rights. That's all we do, is just ensure that organic integrity and compliance to the rules is established at all times. There are inherent risks, certainly, with fracking, and they know this, and we get a lot of calls. You know, how can I protect myself and such in case of a spill? Well, the thing is that all we can do is say that if a spill occurs, we cannot ensure that the farm can remain compliant. You know, we will have to inspect the farm, and if the spill occurred on certified land, and through the course of inspection we found that there was contamination, then we would have to pull that certification for at least 3 years. They would have to go through a transition period and bring that land back into organic certification. So that's a risk that an organic producer takes.
We're not looking exactly at farming, but the only component we could talk about is there what we would call a pathway from the well to the farm that could potentially get into the food, and we see that pathway as air, water, and soil. There's a lot of particulates, volatile organic hydrocarbons. There's some chemicals, radium, for example. There's some other chemicals such as polyaromatic hydrocarbons, which are a group of highly structured materials that whose toxic actions are very well known. They're neurotoxins, and they also produce cancer. There are fluorides and other things that are used in the fracking system that produce serious skin damage.
How has shale gas drilling affected farming community in Pennsylvania, in this area?
Well, the biggest effect on the farming community in Pennsylvania of the natural gas exploration boom, if you will, is that it has greatly divided the community. Those who have signed gas leases usually don't want to talk about it. Those who haven't signed usually want to talk about nothing else. You know, not only do we have a problem in terms of farmers being able to talk to each other about what they're doing and what kind of deal they got. In many cases, the contracts keep them from talking to each other about what the gas company has guaranteed them. But even more so, it's going to be very difficult for farmers to talk with their customers. And if their customers have questions, the farmer's not really going to have answers anyway, because none of us have answers. None of us know if there's a legitimate and persistent threat to the food supply based on the presence of gas drilling.
My name is Stephen Cleghorn. We are at Paradise Gardens and Farm in Jefferson County, Pennsylvania. And it is a 50-acre certified organic farm. Its main business right now is a goat dairy and creamery where we make fresh cheeses, bottled milk, and 2 types of yogurt. We bought it in 2005. It was an old farm that was melting into the ground, all the buildings, and we completely renovated it and added completely new elements to it, like a goat dairy creamery. We were both PhD doctors, and we both agreed that this was the biggest intellectual challenge of our life, is trying to figure out how to farm and how to take care of living beings out in the barn. I subsequently learned that a new lease had been put on the land by the person that owns the deed to the mineral rights, that he had been paid $80,000 or almost $1,500 an acre in bonus monies for signing this lease. And the basic purpose of the lease from the gas company's perspective was to make sure that the shale under this land could be unitized, as they call it, could be put into a gas development unit with shale all around us here. So the lease gives the gas company the right to do that. And as far as the owner of the deed is concerned, he got a big bonus for a deed that he bought for $150 back in 1996 at auction. And he's looking forward to 12.5% royalties if there's ever drilling under this land.
If there was drilling, fracking underneath your land, what would that mean for you as an organic farmer?
It's hard to say. It depends on how it would manifest itself on the surface. If it did manifest itself on the surface, one of the most obvious ways it could is that my well could become contaminated. And my well is not only what I depend on to live here in this house, but it supplies my dairy. And I get it regularly tested twice a year for coliform bacteria and other problems that might affect the cheese-making operation. Were it to be contaminated by the types of substances that are in fracturing fluid, it would be ruined forever, and there would be no recovering from it. So the livelihood of this farm would be destroyed.
How do you then monitor? What kind of tests do you do regarding soil or air emissions?
Right. Well, we don't do any air emission tests, but soil tests are not mandated unless there's a particular issue. If we know that perhaps contamination has occurred, or if there's a risk of contamination, a certifier can call for a soil test.
I guess it could be certified organic, but I'm not sure how you could do it, because you don't know what the chemicals are to look for. We have to realize that in the deep shale, it's very, very warm. There's lots of chemicals down there, and you're injecting other reactive chemicals into the ground, into that very hot thing, which in a chemical lab would be called a retort. So it's impossible to predict what sort of chemicals are going to be recreated when that comes out.
And there is drilling happening in your neighborhood. How does that affect your...
Well, from my research on that question, If a well site was within even a half a mile of us, we would be looking at very serious air pollution impacts. The air pollution itself settles onto the pastures. We could be seeing contaminants become part of the soil. But my concern actually goes deeper than that.
You see the goats there in the field right now. They're breathing this air just like we are. They're much more susceptible to those toxins than we are.
If we think about what the Marcellus activity might do to agriculture, one concern is ozone and ozone production on a regional basis. So if we increase ozone levels around in western Pennsylvania and the Alleghenies, that's going to lead to a certain amount of crop damage. It's not a local, but a cause of concern over the whole region. Locally, I don't think, speculation, but I have a hard time being too concerned about air emissions influencing soil locally. There's just not enough material of the kind of like formaldehyde, a toxic we would be worried about. Deposition of formaldehyde into the ground is just not a big number. Breathing that in again and again, then if it's a cause of concern for a person, it's probably a cause of concern for the health of some animals. No one, to my knowledge, has done a study if that influences the quality of the meat and all those other things. But if you're concerned about human health, you're probably concerned about animal health. If you're worried about climate, then it's methane and carbon dioxide, and you're worried about the globe.
I have suffered in my life through the loss of 2 wives from cancer. Lucinda died a year ago. My first wife died of cancer.
I act in the spirit of the founders of this nation, who proclaimed in our Declaration of Independence that, quote, the laws of nature and nature's God, unquote, entitled them to throw off the oppression of the British Crown. I act, we all act, to throw off the oppression manifesting itself in the threat of fracking for methane gas, an extreme form of fossil fuel extraction. My friends, here now she declares a new right of love on the surface and below this farm that no gas drill will ever penetrate. Come, be with us now. Dr. Lucinda Hart Gonzalez. Thank you all for coming.
My name's Maggie Henry. I have an 88-acre farm in North Beaver Township, Pennsylvania. I do poultry, meat, birds, and turkeys. I have eggs, layer chickens. I have cows and Berkshire pigs. I supply all sorts of different products to my farmers market, which is Farmers at the Firehouse. I supply to the East End Food Co-op. I have restaurants and businesses in Pittsburgh that buy. That cackling that you hear, that walk, 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 that's a chicken having an egg laying party. She's just laid an egg and she's like having this little celebration. They do it every day. But the thing that makes the drilling around here unique is right now we are in the middle of a historic oil field there, and this is actually written up in the literature. And I got a map that I acquired, a USGS map, certified, the whole 9 yards, from the Meadville office of DEP that shows the location of over 1,500 wells in this 6-mile radius. I just don't understand how DEP granted them permits to drill in this area. This is my pile of stuff.
And that's all from the old gas wells?
Yep. It set off the metal detectors and we dug it up. And it's all just old oil and gas well pipes. Unbeknownst to us, my mother-in-law leased the land in 2006 for $3 an acre, $256 a year. She signed this lease for, and we knew nothing about it. And she had absolutely no right to do that whatsoever. She was never, ever involved in the farm. What does a 60-year-old do when they, have the carpet yanked out from underneath it? There was actually a policeman for every protester. They had these big, huge white ties that they were going to tie us up with all over their body. There was a police helicopter that just buzzed my farm. And you know what, too? I have a call in to the cop that they interviewed, and he actually said, we're here to protect the businesses in the community to make sure that they can still function. And so I was like, I'm calling that cop and finding out what he's going to do to protect me.
That's good.
I think we both have mixed ideas about it. I think it's a good thing economically for Pennsylvania, but I think the environmental costs are probably being masked by the current Corbett administration.
Have you heard about Maggie's concerns?
No.
You haven't heard that there's drilling right next to her farm, and they might be drilling on her farm too. What do you think about that?
You have to stop doing that. You need to think about it. It's just stupid.
So clearly there's been an effect on her farm then.
And there might be drilling on her farm.
It is. We watched them level farmland to take the coal out, and it's just disgusting, really.
If they're doing that, how would you be able to tell that it was affecting the crops, the products?
I don't feel it should be allowed near any farming.
There's no real proven link between fracking and poor quality food. There certainly have been indications of livestock illness that would cause one to be concerned about, well, what kind of an effect would that have on the meat or milk that come from that livestock. But I really don't think it's fair for people who are against gas drilling to try to scare other people about the quality of the food in order to make their point, when that has a corollary negative effect on farmers who, in many cases, may be trying to do all the right things.
Is there any safety limit? How far or close can the drilling sites be from the farms where our food is produced?
I'm gonna make an educated estimate and say that it's probable that I would be comfortable with 5 miles.
This is not only a problem with the organic farms, clearly.
It's a problem with all farms, for even commercial farms. I don't believe I've ever seen a problem as widespread as this with as little information collected about it and as lax an attitude in terms of the sense of urgency and the sense of responsibility on the part of the state, the federal government, and by that, for that, all that matter, the drilling industry.
What are you going to do if and when the drilling starts in your area?
Yeah, I'm trying to learn as much as I can, from good research, so we know what the negative effects would be. And I just feel kind of like my hands are tied. Like the drilling's going to happen in this area, and I don't really have much say on where they do it, other than trying to negotiate with them not to have it on our property. So yeah, we're not sure totally what to do.
We butted heads at the conference about whether drilling should go forward. But afterwards we had dinner, and I was telling him what I was going to do, and he heard me as a human being. He understood what I was trying to do, and he said, you know what, you can actually protect your land in that way through a deed restriction or an easement.
This is something that is a very big deal, in the sense that it's the first time any private landowner in the United States of America has put such an easement on their property. So what we're doing with the easement here, the Environmental Legal Defense Fund, as well as myself and Nature, thank you Nature, is we're putting us all together in a partnership to declare and protect and sustain the rights of nature in perpetuity on this land. That's one part of the easement. The other part is to declare forever what Lucinda and I started here, that this farm shall be used only for organic agriculture.
I think that this is a way that people in communities living within jurisdictions where the elected government will not act out of conscience to protect community rights, where the individual landowners can take it upon themselves and to become an example for the community.
There should be much more transparency as to how these contracts are being written, about the way different gas companies do business.
If you love your enemy, there's all kinds of ways that you can communicate to your enemy that say that says to them and anyone else watching that there's something serious going on here that needs to be attended to, and we can't keep doing this to each other.
We were to stop and do some of the necessary studies and answer some of these questions so that people can actually know where the risks are and where they're not likely to appear, then people could talk to each other more freely about this.